Rain hammered the city like 1,000 fists on glass. A man knelt on a supermarket floor, chasing a coin that rolled out of reach. His baby cried from the cart above, tiny fists shaking the air. The cashier's voice cut sharp, still 94 short. Behind him, someone whispered, "Shouldn't have kids if you can't afford them." The man's throat tightened. His hand trembled over the counter. Then, out of the noise, a calm voice rose behind him. "I'll take it." The store froze. And in that split second, everything began to change. Bright Mart at 9:17 p.m. buzzed like a tired beehive under sodium lights, quieter than usual, colder than it looked. Aisle signs rattling every time the heater kicked on. Noah Reyes slid one pack of size 3 diapers onto the belt. His fingers were cracked, nail beds stained with motor oil, the kind you can't fully scrub out. Lily hiccuped from the faded plastic cart seat. 2 little legs windmilled, cheeks sticky with the crumb of a broken vanilla wafer. The scanner chirped once, bright and clinical. The cashier didn't look up as the total flashed in blue. Noah pinched coins from his pocket and lined them like a small, stubborn parade. A quarter, 2 dimes, 1 nickel, a handful of tired pennies that had lived too many cash drawers. He counted again, lips barely moving. Short by 94 cents, a gap as wide as a mile when you're down to lint and hope. He checked his other pocket anyway, receipts, thread, that one loose button he never stitched back. A penny slipped and skated off his thumb. It spun under the cart with a helpless little ting that felt louder than the store. Noah dropped to his knees, tile cold, kneecaps aching, the world suddenly at ankle height. Lily reached down and patted his hair like she was blessing him. Her breath hitched and steadied. The cart's buckle creaked. He stretched under the cart, fingers brushing dust and the copper rim, pulled the penny back like it mattered. Because tonight, it did. Noah stood and placed the coin on the counter with careful ceremony. He kept his eyes on the belt, not on the line behind him. "Still 94 short," the cashier said, monotone, eyes on the screen. The fluorescence hummed like a warning. Noah's mouth opened, then closed. He had a sentence he hated, put it back, and it stuck to his teeth like gum. From behind him, a soft, even voice cut the air. "I'll cover it." Noah turned. She stood easy in a cream coat and scuffed gray chucks, curls tucked, no perfume you could name. In her basket, baby food pouches, a plush giraffe, a bottle of mild shampoo. Nothing loud, nothing branded to be seen. "Add wipes," she told the cashier. "Tone practical, and a few of those fruit pouches." She was close enough to feel real and far enough not to crowd him. Noah's pride flared and faded in the same breath. "I'm not a beggar," he said, low, not a protest so much as an old bruise. Her eyes didn't blink away. "I know," she said simply, as if agreeing with a fact on a label. The register ran the tape and coughed out a long receipt. The cashier bagged quickly, relieved to move the line. Lily stared at the giraffe peeking out of the plastic like it had always belonged to her. Her mouth made a round O, then a laugh that spilled into Noah's chest. He took the bag, weight landing in his palm like a second chance. "Thank you," he managed. 2 words slotted into place without strings. She didn't reach for his hand or ask his story. "Get her home warm," she said. A small nod like a period. Automatic doors parted with a sigh. And Lake Haven's night breathed cold. Parking lot lights cast everything in nickel and frost. Noah paused beneath the overhang, breath fogging. He pulled 1 fruit pouch from the bag's strawberry apple, cheerful and expensive. He looked at it a heartbeat longer than necessary, turned back inside and set it on the impulse shelf beside the mints. He kept the diapers, the wipes, the giraffe. He returned what he could. Rule of the road. Only take what I can't give back. Outside, his old pickup sulked under a film of salt. He buckled Lily in, tugged her sleeve, tucked the blanket, checked the latch twice. She waved the giraffe like a trophy. Gummy grin wide. The heater coughed to life and smelled faintly of dust. Noah gripped the wheel and let the store's hum fade in the mirrors. He hadn't planned on help tonight. Hadn't planned on feeling seen either. At the light, he caught his own eyes in the rear view, tired but steady. He whispered where Lily couldn't hear, as if saying it aloud made it true. I'm not a beggar. Lake Haven stretched ahead in a grid of pale windows and sleep. Factories along the lake blinked red, slow and patient. He turned into his block brick walk-ups, one laundromat, a diner that never died. His stomach reminded him it had been hours since lunch. Up 3 flights with Lily on his shoulder and the bag biting into his fingers. Door latch sticky, deadbolt grateful. Kitchen light buzzed on. He set the groceries down and breathed the room's familiar, quiet, cheap soap. Old coffee, baby lotion. He wiped the counter with the edge of his sleeve, a habit he couldn't break. He looked at the receipt like it might evaporate. He slid the giraffe toward Lily. She hugged it instantly, ownership declared without paperwork. He folded the crinkled plastic and tucked it under the sink for trash day. The small, satisfying math of being prepared for a few more nights. On the fridge, a magnet held a list he'd made in blunt pencil: rent, gas, diapers, all the things that keep a life from unraveling. He wrote wipes and underlined it twice. Sometimes ink is a kind of promise. Noah rinsed 2 cups, filled one with water for himself, one with warm milk for Lily. He felt the day start to release its grip. Just a fraction. He tried not to think about tomorrow's hours at the garage that wasn't really his. Side jobs, cash, enough to float, not enough to rest. He tried not to wonder who she was, the woman who didn't make him explain. He had a face to remember and no name to attach to it. Somewhere between the sink and the crib, he noticed a small flyer at the bottom of the bag. Not a coupon. A handout printed on bright paper. Harbor Hands, free supplies for parents, Thursdays, Lake Street. No questions asked. He pinned the flyer beneath the magnet as if he'd always planned to. He didn't circle anything. He didn't vow. He just left it there to exist. Lily yawned, a tiny squeak at the end. He rubbed her back through the pajama cotton and felt her body soften. The night pressed its ear to the window and listened to their breathing. Somewhere on the lake, a horn sounded once and disappeared. Noah turned off the kitchen light and stood in the doorway until his eyes adjusted. He could see the outline of the crib, the slope of Lily's cheek, the faint shine on the giraffe's sewn eyes. He wasn't lighter, not all the way, but the floor felt steadier under his socks. He slid the receipt into the drawer with the spare keys and the tape measure, paper proof that sometimes strangers enter a story at the exact line where you're about to write "give up." He locked the door and checked it again, a ritual that calmed him. Then he lay on the couch and stared at the cracked ceiling like a map he could finally read. Down the hall, the radiator hissed and settled. In his pocket, one last penny warmed against his thigh. He closed his eyes on a city that looked the same as yesterday. He opened them on a thought that wasn't there before tomorrow might hold. In the quiet, the rule repeated itself, softer than a prayer. Only take what I can't give back. Outside, a bright Mart truck groaned past, taillights smearing red. Inside, Lily exhaled a tiny laugh in her sleep, and something inside Noah answered back. Saturday morning in Lake Haven broke gray, the kind of sky that promised drizzle but held it back. Noah carried Lily on his hip, a duffel over his shoulder, heading toward the warehouse on Lake Street. The sign read, "Harbor Hands" in peeling blue letters. Cardboard boxes stacked like walls. Volunteers in neon vests moving quick. Clipboards snapping. Noah signed his name on a clipboard with a dull pen. He felt the pause of the girl at the desk when she read it. Then the nod that said nothing mattered except the list. A line of parents shifted from one foot to the other, holding babies, pushing strollers, carrying plastic bags stretched thin. The air smelled of powdered formula, bleach, and wet cardboard. Noah balanced Lily while he waited. She chewed the ear of the giraffe, making it hers bite by bite. When his turn came, he reached for a box of diapers, the same brand from Bright Mart. He tucked it under his arm like contraband. Then a voice beside him, familiar, cut through the shuffle of shoes on concrete. "I thought I might see you here." Noah turned. She wasn't in cream today, but in a plain navy jacket, curls loose, no boardroom polish. Aurora Blake smiled like she knew the surprise on his face. "I come every Thursday. No cameras, just work." The giraffe tumbled from Lily's grip, and Aurora bent down, catching it before it hit the wet floor. She handed it back, smooth as if she'd done it 1,000 times. Noah shifted his weight, not sure whether to thank her again or walk away. She didn't give him the chance. "You still fixing cars?" she asked. Tone casual, but eyes steady. He nodded once. "Side jobs, cash, whatever shows up." Aurora leaned against a pallet, voice lower now. "We run a fleet of delivery vans at Little Nest. They break down all the time. We need someone honest." Noah stiffened. "Because I'm broke." She shook her head gently. "Because you're good. And because I think you deserve steady ground." The words hung there longer than they should have. Noah looked down at Lily, who was patting the giraffe's head like it purred. He muttered, "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." Aurora replied, pushing off the pallet, leaving no card, no contact, just her name in the air. Monday morning. The Little Nest garage yawned open. Concrete floors stained black. The smell of grease older than some of the vans. Noah arrived early. Lily strapped in a second-hand carrier against his chest. She slept, breath warm against his shirt, tiny fist curled at his collar. He rolled up sleeves, grabbed a wrench, and leaned into an engine like slipping into his first language. Belts, plugs, wires. His hands moved quicker than his thoughts. When parts were good, he said so. When they weren't, he wrote it down on scraps of paper and taped them to the dash. The drivers watched, trading looks. They'd had mechanics milk hours before, but this man worked like every bolt was borrowed time. By noon, one van hummed steady again, exhaust clean, hood closing with a solid thunk. Noah wiped his forearm across his forehead, leaving a streak of black. From the far side of the bay, a laugh rang soft, unexpected. Aurora had stepped inside. Sneakers damp from rain, arms crossed, but eyes warmed. She walked past the grease, heels clicking faintly against the concrete, though she wasn't in heels at all. She stopped when she saw Lily awake, seated in the hollow of an old tire. Noah had rigged up tubes and scrap hoses into a makeshift cockpit. "Training module," he said, half smile. "She wants to go to the moon." Aurora crouched, watching Lily press the tubing like buttons, making spaceship noises. Her laugh came easy, bright in a place that hadn't heard much of it. Noah felt it settle inside him, awkward and new. He looked down at his hands, as if grease could explain the heat in his chest. That night, the apartment was quieter than usual. Lily leaned heavy in his arms, hotter than she should have been, her cheeks flushed, forehead damp, eyelids fluttering restless. Noah touched her skin, and panic rose like floodwater. He tried the old truck dead click. The starter refused, mocking him. He wrapped Lily in a blanket, pressed her against his chest. Her whimpers shook him more than the cold air outside. Phone in hand, he scrolled through contacts that weren't really contacts. Then he tapped Aurora's number, the one she'd slipped him after the garage. 2 rings. She answered without question. "Where are you?" Minutes later, her car screeched to the curb, headlights slicing the drizzle. She opened the passenger door herself. "Get in." Noah climbed in, Lily small and burning in his arms. The heater blew weak, but the urgency in Aurora's grip was heat enough. The clinic's fluorescent hallway stretched too long. Paperwork pushed across a counter, Noah's pen hand shaking. Aurora filled the blanks when he couldn't. Insurance numbers, addresses, signatures, her tone calm, steady, on the exam table. Lily whimpered, tiny chest rising too fast. The doctor's stethoscope cold, his voice routine viral fever, not dangerous. Fluids, rest, relief nearly dropped Noah to his knees. He stayed at the bedside until Lily's eyes closed at last. Outside on a metal bench, the night cold but lighter. Aurora sat beside him, not too close, not too far. Noah's voice broke into the silence. "Thank you. Nothing more, nothing less." Aurora didn't smile. She just nodded once. "You're a good father," she said. Quiet and firm. Noah looked at the ground, jaw tight. "I'm trying." The truth of it scraped his throat. "That's all it takes." Her words landed like a blanket, simple and sufficient. They sat until the parking lot emptied, until Noah's breath steadied. When they finally rose, the night seemed less sharp around the edges. Back at the apartment, Lily slept deeply for the first time in days. Her giraffe clutched tight, her forehead cooler. Noah stood in the doorway, arms folded, the rhythm of her breathing sinking into him. He didn't know what tomorrow held, maybe vans, maybe more bills, but tonight, he wasn't alone. Aurora's car taillights had disappeared blocks ago. Yet the echo of her words remained, humming steady in his chest. For the first time in too long, Noah allowed himself to believe the ground under him might hold, and that someone, against all reason, had decided to stand there with him. Morning came sharp in Lake Haven, the kind of light that exposes everything. Noah wiped his hands on a rag, closing the hood of a van that finally purred instead of coughed. He heard his phone buzz against the workbench. At first he ignored it, but the alerts stacked, one after another, louder in silence. A photo filled his screen when he finally swiped. Aurora, crouched beside Lily outside Harbor Hands, lifting the child into her arms. The image was cropped tight, shadows exaggerated. Captions screamed beneath it: CEO stages tender moment, PR stunt or genuine. Dozens of comments scrolled by too fast to read. Some praised, most mocked, all of them using Lily's face as fuel. Noah felt heat rise to his neck. Not because of him, but because the woman who had stood steady was being carved into headlines. He set the phone down hard, wrench clattering after it. The drivers nearby exchanged wary looks, but no one spoke. Within an hour, the story hit talk shows, podcasts, quick-fire videos. Paige Lark, a local influencer with sharp teeth, leaned into the camera, coincidence or calculated compassion. At the same moment, Aurora sat at her office desk 30 floors up. Laptop closed, phone muted, notifications still clawing through the quiet. She pressed fingertips against her temple. Behind her, the Lake Haven skyline shimmered like nothing had changed. Noah left the garage without asking. Grease still on his arms, boots loud against the marble lobby of Little Nest. The receptionist half rose from her chair. Noah's voice cut her short. "I need to see Aurora Blake, now." The elevator carried him in silence, each floor number glowing like a countdown. When the doors opened, the air smelled of glass and stale coffee. Aurora sat alone at the long table. Papers untouched, shoulders straight but heavy. Her eyes flicked up when Noah stepped in. No surprise, only fatigue. "You don't have to take this alone," he said before the door shut. She turned back toward the window. "It'll pass. That doesn't mean you have to be silent." His words landed rough, but steady. Aurora exhaled slowly, the kind of breath held too long. "I'm not shaken by headlines," she whispered. "I'm shaken because someone showed up." For a moment, neither spoke. The city's hum filled the pause, muffled through glass. Noah didn't push further. He just stood, the weight in the room shifting slightly lighter. 2 days later, the boardroom gleamed with chrome and suspicion. Mahogany table polished, digital displays glowing with graphs no one cared about. Bennett Crow, investor and board member, leaned back in his chair, voice smooth. "Blake, stock price dips 6 points after your little photo op. What's the plan?" Aurora kept her tone even. No staged photo op, just work. "We'll let results speak." Bennett slid a folder across the table, sharp as a blade. "Then explain this. Missing parts shipment, sign off Reyes. Your hand-picked mechanic, Noah, summoned to the room without warning, stood at the far end." He felt every eye weigh him like a faulty bolt. Bennett tapped the folder. "Either incompetence or theft. Which one should we file under?" Aurora looked across the table at Noah. Her gaze wasn't soft. It demanded truth. Noah squared his shoulders. "I signed the delivery, but I passed counting to a younger tech. He's drowning in debt. That's on me." "So you admit failure?" Bennett pressed, leaning forward. Noah didn't blink. "I admit responsibility. I don't pass blame." Aurora lifted a hand. "Pull the footage." The head of security tapped keys, screen filling with grainy time-stamped video. The shipment appeared, loaded properly. Then, hours later, a subcontractor redirected the pallet to a neighboring dock. Invoices matched, signatures from a driver, not even on Little Nest payroll. Evidence crisp, damning, but not against Noah. The silence afterward was jagged. Bennett's jaw worked once, but no words followed. Aurora closed the folder with calm finality. Mistakes happen. Accusations without proof are another matter. Around the table, members shifted, eyes darting. Noah stayed still. The truth heavier than accusation, but easier to carry. Bennett leaned back, mask unbroken. "We'll revisit this," he said coldly, already plotting the next angle. That evening, Noah returned to the garage. He bent over an engine, hands moving out of habit, but his mind replayed the boardroom. Lily sat in her tire cockpit, steering imaginary galaxies. Her laughter cut through the weight in his chest. Aurora walked in quietly, watching from the doorway. No clipboard, no agenda, only a look that said, "I saw what you did." She didn't mention Bennett, didn't mention stock prices. Instead, she knelt beside Lily and asked, "Captain, are we cleared for takeoff?" Lily squealed, pressing a button made of duct-taped tubing. "Yes," she answered in toddler certainty. Noah glanced up, a faint smile breaking past his guard. For a few minutes, grease and scandal dissolved in laughter. But as night fell, Lake Haven's screen still lit with speculation. The storm outside hadn't passed, only shifted direction. Noah knew it. Aurora knew it. And somewhere in the shadows of that knowledge, another fight was already forming. Rain slicked the streets of Lake Haven, headlights stretching into silver ribbons. Noah carried Lily up 3 flights, grocery sack tucked against his hip. He barely had time to set her down when a knock rattled the thin door. A woman in a gray coat stood there, badge around her neck. Child Protective Services? Mr. Reyes. Her tone was clipped, professional. We received a report. Concerns about your daughter's welfare. I need to step inside. Noah's chest tightened. He stepped back. Let her in. The smell of wet wool following. She glanced around the small apartment. Peeling paint. Second-hand crib. Stacks of mechanic manuals by the couch. Her eyes landed on Lily, clutching the giraffe, cheeks still flushed from sleep. Who watches her while you work? I take her with me, Noah admitted. Garage is safe. I keep her close. The woman scribbled notes, pen scratching like judgment. You'll need to provide documentation of stable employment and childcare. 72 hours. A clock seemed to start ticking in the air. Noah swallowed, nodded once. I'll get it. The next morning he marched into Little Nest. Aurora looked up from her desk, reading the urgency before he spoke. CPS, he said. 3 days. Proof of work, proof of care. Her lips pressed thin, then firmed with resolve. You'll have both, she said. Phone already in hand, dialing legal, within an hour. Paperwork landed on Noah's lap, official letter of employment, signed and sealed. By afternoon, Aurora called in a favor at a community daycare near the garage. Noah, she said quietly, this buys time, not forever, but it keeps her safe. He met her eyes, something unspoken passing gratitude edged with fear. That night, the storm hit harder. Wind bent the streetlights. Rain pounded the warehouse roof. A call came through on the driver radio. One of the Little Nest vans, loaded with diapers and formula for harbor hands, had broken down on the overpass. Noah grabbed his jacket. Lily already bundled in a blanket. When he reached the bridge, hazard lights flickered weak through sheets of rain. Aurora's car pulled up seconds later, wipers thrashing. She leapt out, rain plastering her curls to her cheeks. Help me move it, she shouted over the storm. Together, they shouldered box after box, water soaking through denim and wool. Lily giggled from under the blanket, clapping at the thunder. Her laugh rang brighter than the horns of passing trucks. For one breathless hour, they hauled, stacked, delivered in the teeth of the storm. No camera crews, no headlines. Just raw necessity. By the time the last box was loaded into another van, their clothes clung heavy, their breaths ragged. Aurora leaned against the guardrail, hair dripping, eyes fierce with something unguarded. Noah met her gaze. Neither spoke, but the silence was full of recognition. 2 days later, CPS returned. Noah had the paperwork neatly clipped, the daycare contract highlighted, schedules printed. The worker inspected each page with slow precision. She walked the apartment again, checked the crib, opened the fridge. Then she looked at Lily, bouncing in Aurora's lap, small hands tangled in the curls she had learned to trust. This is satisfactory, the worker said. We'll close the file. Relief landed like a dropped weight. Noah nearly sat down on the floor. Aurora only exhaled once, long and steady. Lily squealed and pressed the giraffe into her father's face, as if to seal the moment. The following morning, Aurora sent Noah a text. Rooftop, sunrise, need to talk. Noah arrived before the sky fully broke. The city lay beneath them, hushed. Glass towers painted in pale orange. Aurora stood near the edge, coat pulled tight, hands in her pockets. When she turned, something small glinted in her palm, a locket. Silver, tarnished, worn thin by years. She opened it, revealing rough engraving in Reyes. What's your full name, she asked, voice steady. Noah Elias Reyes. He froze when his eyes fell on the locket. His hand twitched, memory uncoiling like smoke. Where did you get that? His voice cracked raw. Aurora's breath caught. From a fire. St. Marina Orphanage. I was 7. Noah stared past her, seeing it all again. The night sky black, people screaming. Someone said a girl was trapped upstairs. He swallowed. Rain still in his lungs from years ago. I kicked the door, covered her with my jacket, carried her out. Then I disappeared. Aurora's eyes shone, not with pity, but with a truth found at last. That girl was me. And this, she lifted the locket, was all I had of you. For a long moment, time held them in place. The city moved beneath, horns distant, sirens faint. But here the world stilled. You saved my life, Aurora whispered. Noah's jaw clenched, eyes wet. And you gave mine back. The first rays of sun broke free, painting the rooftop in gold. They stood side by side, not touching, but no distance left between them. That evening, Noah tucked Lily into bed, her fever gone, cheeks cool. The giraffe leaned against her pillow, moonlight soft on its stitched smile. He lingered by the crib, remembering rain on the bridge, the weight of boxes, the weight lifted from his chest, and the silver locket. Proof that the past had never truly left him. Outside, Lake Haven glowed restless, stories spinning in every window. But inside the small apartment, for once, the clock ticked calm. The 72 hours had passed. Something larger had just begun. The city of Lake Haven buzzed louder than usual. Screens in shop windows replayed the same clip, Aurora Blake, holding a child outside a warehouse. Talk shows tore it apart. Calculated stunt, one anchor sneered. Or is the billionaire softening her brand? Aurora sat in her office, blinds half drawn, scrolling headline after headline. Every swipe felt like another blade. She didn't call PR. She didn't release a statement. Instead, she sent Noah a single text, press room, tomorrow, noon. The next day, the Little Nest press hall overflowed with reporters. Cameras blinked red. Microphones pointed like bayonets. Aurora stepped to the podium, hair pulled back, jacket plain. No script in her hand, only the small silver locket hidden in her pocket. I grew up without safety nets, she began, her voice carrying steady. When I was 7, I nearly didn't survive. A stranger saved me. Murmurs rippled. Cameras zoomed closer. I never found him. Until now. She turned slightly, gestured to the side. Noah walked onto the stage, sleeves rolled, collar stiff, but no tie. Reporters leaned forward. Flash bulbs flared like lightning. Noah paused at the podium, gaze sweeping the crowd, then landing on Aurora. I used to think surviving the day was enough, he said, voice firm. But someone showed me it's not about rescue. It's about standing beside someone until they can stand alone. He glanced toward Aurora, then down at Lily, who sat in the front row with a volunteer. The room hushed. Every lens captured the moment. On the screen behind them, footage flickered to life. Not staged, not polished security video from Brightmart. It showed Noah at the register weeks ago, a fruit pouch in his hand, then placed back carefully on the impulse shelf. The caption read, "Only take what you cannot give back." Silence settled, heavier than applause. Then the clapping began. Hesitant at first, then rolling like thunder. Reporters leaned in, voices softer now, questions tempered. Aurora stepped forward once more. Lake Haven doesn't need another PR story. It needs truth. And this, she nodded toward Noah, is what truth looks like. That night, an anonymous leak broke open. Emails from Bennett Crow's account hit every inbox in town. The messages revealed a contract with a shadow agency. Payment made for staged photos. Headlines twisted. Hashtags seeded. Crow had fed the fire that scorched Aurora's name. Now it burned him instead. The board convened emergency session. Votes tallied. Decisive. Bennett was suspended, his future hanging by threads of his own making. Aurora didn't smile at the result. She only folded the paper and filed it away. Weeks later, a warehouse space at the edge of the city buzzed with hammers and sawdust. Walls painted white, windows washed clear. A sign went up in block letters. Project A Anchor Works, free training, child care on site, meals hot, no questions asked. Noah walked through the space, sleeves rolled, blueprint under his arm. His name on the door, Director of Logistics and Community Outreach. Aurora stood with him, watching volunteers set up a play corner. "You know what it should be," she said. "Build it your way." He nodded, eyes steady, voice quiet. "Then it'll be a place for people like me. Like us." The first class arrived one chilly Monday. Young parents, hands calloused, eyes wary, children clinging close. Noah greeted them not with speeches, but with a wrench in his hand. "This is a tool," he said, "and so are you. Both can build something strong." Engines clicked alive under untrained fingers. Confidence sparked where there had only been survival. Across the room, kids laughed as volunteers passed crayons and juice. The hum of possibility filled the air. Aurora watched from the doorway, arms folded, face softer than any press release could capture. She didn't step in. She let the moment belong to them. Later that evening, the three of them walked the lakeside park, leaves scattered in orange and rust. The air crisp. Lily toddled ahead, giraffe in one hand, blanket dragging behind like a cape. Noah and Aurora followed, steps falling into rhythm. They sat on a wooden bench as the sun melted into the horizon. Lily climbed onto Noah's lap, yawning wide. Aurora leaned her head on his shoulder. Quiet. Sure. No words needed. The silence said enough. The city lights blinked awake across the water, restless as ever. But here, time slowed to the pace of a child's breath. Noah looked down at Lily, safe in her blanket. Giraffe pressed tight. He thought of pennies on a counter, rain on a bridge, and fire years ago. He thought of how every broken piece had led them here. Not perfect, not polished, real. Aurora reached for his hand, fingers threading through. For the first time, neither pulled away. The night closed around them like a promise kept. Family was no longer a word they were chasing. It was right here, sitting on a park bench in Lake Haven, with laughter echoing soft, and the future steady for once. And in that steady quiet, something deeper than survival finally took root. In the end, this story isn't just about a man short 94 cents or a woman who stepped in. It's about the truth that none of us are meant to carry the weight of survival alone. Sometimes, the smallest act covering a gap at a checkout line, lifting a box in the rain, standing beside someone when the world turns cruel, becomes the turning point of a life. Dignity doesn't come from wealth, or titles, or headlines. It comes from showing up for each other. In the quiet moments, no one applauds. Noah thought survival was enough. Until Aurora showed him that being seen, truly seen, is what heals. And Aurora believed she was still that lost child in the fire. Until Noah proved that the people who save us can walk back into our lives in unexpected ways. We are all, in some way, one coin short. And we are all, in some way, the stranger behind the line who can say, "I'll take it." If this story touched you, if it reminded you that kindness still changes lives, share your thoughts below. Tell us about the moment someone stood beside you, or the moment you stood beside someone else. Thank you for giving your time and heart to listen today. And until we meet again, may your days be safe. May your nights be gentle. And may you never forget, second chances are everywhere, waiting for us to pass them on.